Hi, I'm Don. Today we paint another Grimskald miniature. This time it's a Howler. The miniature is kind of big, so I had to do a zenithal to make the painting a bit more efficient. I did the zenithal with cuttlefish colors, which are pre-glazed paints. Thus, the transition of the colors, as you can see, is a bit softer than usual because, again, they're pre-glazed paints. So, you need maybe a couple of thin coats if you want a full coverage of the current color. And now we're like painting the main highlights with white cuttlefish, but I stopped with just one coat so that I don't have those bright white highlights. Hi, I'm Don. Welcome to my studio. This channel is supported by all these awesome brands, but this channel won't be possible without the support of my crazy awesome patrons. Since we're painting with oil paints, we're going to use my Redgrass V2XL glass palette. As usual, we're using odorless mineral spirit, which is Gamsol, because I don't like odor. I'm used to painting with acrylics, and bad smell is bad. If you're a long-time follower or a subscriber of this channel, you know how I learn like new mediums or new painting techniques. I kinda like focus on specific painting techniques for a while, for like a couple of videos, and for mediums or paints, I focus at least with that medium for at least a month. So when I got the cuttlefish colors, which are pre-glazed paints, I use it strictly just cuttlefish for 1 month so that I know the nuances and how the paints work. Now for this one, you'll notice for this month, I've been using like mainly oil paints, and I'm loving the learning experience. Although I've used oil paints mainly for washes, a bit of weathering for like more than a year now, but this month I was really focused on learning this medium. This particular Grimskald miniature is actually my first fully painted miniature with oil paints. Well, not really fully because I did the zenithal with acrylics with cuttlefish, but the colors are fully like oil paints. So I'm really proud of the result. You'll see it later in the video. But as I paint the miniature, because the tutorial version, like the step-by-step commentary on how I actually painted the mini, is up at Patreon as usual. So in this video, I'm just discussing like the advantages. There are obvious advantages of oil paints over acrylics, but at least the oil paints that I have very certain or specific advantages over acrylics. As I've said earlier, the yellow Hansa Yellow Fast Matte from Gamblin kinda dried in just 10 minutes. So the Fast Matte series is a bit of an exception in terms of the drying time, so I'll talk about oil paints in general when we're talking about the drying time. Basically, oil paints are like a really old medium, and acrylics are like new medium in comparison to oil paints. So acrylics are basically formulated to like simulate oil painting, especially the heavy bodied acrylics. They want to simulate even the brush strokes and stuff like that, the texturing with oil paints. And the hobby like acrylic paints are also trying to simulate the strengths and some properties of oil paints. For example, contrast paints, it's basically just oil paints. Add a bit more thinner or mineral spirit. Don't use linseed oil since we're painting like miniatures, and linseed oil will like dry in a week or even longer depending on the thickness of your application. So it doesn't work for miniature painting unless you're kind of leisurely like building up the colors, much like how fine artists paint on canvas. But I don't really recommend that because as miniature painters, we want the painting to be a little bit faster. Having said that, basically, acrylics are similar to oils, like oil washes and glazing with oils, especially if you thin with mineral spirit or thinners, are practically the same. The only advantage is that it's a little bit like slower the drying time, and you could blend the edges because it's still wet. But they're practically the same, they feel the same. If you find glazing with acrylics difficult, it's also as difficult with oil paints because you have those nasty like marks around the edges that you need to blend. The difference is that with acrylics, you have to blend faster because they dry super fast. So layering with oils, glaze layering with oils, glazing, and washes feels the same as when you use acrylics. The three, in my opinion, main advantage of oil paints over acrylics are: one, it's so easy to wet blend because they stay wet for a while, but you have to have a dry underpainting before you could do wet blending on top. And I'm not really comfortable with wet blending. I'm just not used to wet blending, may it be acrylics or oil paints. But one of the main strengths of oil paints is that it's easier for wet blending. The second advantage of oil paints, which I use a lot, is the two brush technique, wherein you have like the normal brush, you apply a small amount and then you blend that oil paint on the model with a clean brush, like a brush dipped in thinner, but you wipe it off, like you wipe off the thinner on a piece of towel and use it to blend or spread the oil paint. Now, the super main advantage of oil paints over acrylics, in my opinion, is the brilliance or vibrancy of the pigments, of the colors. The brilliance or vibrancy of the colors are insane, as you can see in the video, and it's crazy. It's like fluorescent, but it's not. It's softer than fluorescent paints, and it covers really well. So the colors also stay really vibrant even after a day or more of curing. Painting with oil paints is a bit different, or like a ton different in comparison to acrylics because of the drying time. So you have to plan your painting process so that your painting with oil paints is a bit more efficient. However, that minor inefficiency because of the drying time is so much worth it simply because of the very, very, very vibrant finish. Now it's time to thank all my awesome patrons. This channel won't be possible and painting every day won't be possible without their support. Now you see the golden lemon reveal after a day of curing, and you could still see the very vibrant colors. The highlights are super white. The transition of colors are kinda smooth, super smooth, and of course the colors simply pop. Another main advantage, basically most likely the main advantage of oils, is if you use linseed oil or any type of oil to thin it down. However, that's kinda impractical with miniature painting because it will the miniature will dry in a week or two or even longer. But if you use oils to thin down your paints, the translucency of your layering is very, very translucent. You could actually see the different colors in between all those layering of colors in your painting. However, I do not really advise it because it takes so much longer if you paint with linseed oils. I really enjoyed painting with oil paints for the past few weeks. However, for next month, I'll be combining acrylics and oils and making sure that we maximize the different strengths of the two different mediums. So I hope you like this video and do subscribe for more miniature painting tutorials. And as I've said earlier, the longer 29-minute tutorial version of this video is up at Patreon. That's it, Pansit!